Okay, when we graph, we actually do most of our work in the calculator, but for this first part, we don't really need the calculator. To find AH and K, every formula has AH and K in the same location. A is in the front, so in this problem, it would be -1. H is on the inside, but it's also going to change signs. So right here, we have a +4. We're going to make that into a -4. H is the only one that does that. K is at the end, and this one is a +5, so we just leave that as a +5. And we can actually graph the starting point by using H and K. So H and K, we got -1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like it's going to be about right here. Before we go to the calculator, we should already know that that 2 right there is going to make it a parabola, and that negative is going to make it face down. So I'm going to go into my calculator now, go into the graphing feature, and enter in negative parentheses x plus 4, close the parentheses, square it, and then hit +5. Hit execute, and then draw. So we know that this graph starts at -4. So what we want to do is we actually want to stay pretty close to this because the further you move away, the faster the graph goes down. So we don't want to go off to like 9 because that's going to be really, really low. And we can't graph that on here anyways. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the trace button. And I want to go next to -4, which is at -3. And it looks like that's at +4, so that's about right here. And I want to type in -2. That looks like it's at +1. -2, +1 is about right here. And I'm going to keep trying it till it just doesn't fit on the graph anymore. So -1. That's at -4. -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Probably fit one more in there, maybe. So we'll try 0. 0 is at -11, so that's off the charts. Now, the way this graph works is it's actually symmetric across this dotted line here. So what I can do is I can just use the line of symmetry to reflect points across. So if that's 1 point away from the center, or 1 unit, we got 1 point here. That's 2 away, so I go 2 away over here. And then this one's 3 away, so I go 3 away on this side. 1, 2, 3. And then we can use those as the guides to try and graph somewhat of a parabolic shape. And there you have it. Okay, to graph this, we don't even start with the graphing calculator. What we can do is we can actually start with just finding AH and K. AH and K are in the same spots of all equations. A is in the front, H is in the inside with X, and K is at the end. So in this one, you don't see a number here, so that actually indicates that it's 1. H is on the inside, but it's also opposite, so that's going to be -2. And then K is at the end, so that's -1. So in our graph, we can actually start graphing this shape. The shape has sort of like a center point or a vertex or a starting point at H and K. So H is the X and K is the Y. So 2 to the left and 1 down. That's where our starting point is. Now in general, a cubic shape basically has a shape that goes up like this and then down like this on the other side. So in the graphing calculator, we're just going to type in exactly what we see, x plus 2, and we're going to put to the 3rd power, and we're going to make sure that we get out of the exponent by pushing the arrow button to the right. You can see the cursor got a little bit bigger, and then we push -1. So there's our graph, and we know that it starts at -2, so I'm going to just kind of stay close to -2. I'm going to type in -1. So at -1, it's at 0. Then I'm going to type in 0. At 0, it jumps all the way up to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably around here somewhere. The Mobi's acting up a little bit, so you're going to have to bear with me. I think that's 7. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. And it looks like on that end of the graph, it's going to shoot off the graph paper, so I can't go any further that way. So I'm going to go to the left of -2, so I'll go to -3. So at -3, it's at -2, so there's a dot here. At -4. It's at -9. So -4 looks like it's about right here. And then we just kind of try to trace this as best as we can. So we got one that goes up that way and one that heads up this way. And that's pretty much all there is to this one. Okay, so before we graph, we're going to go list A, H, and K. In every formula, A is in the front, H is in the inside with the X, and K is at the end on the right side. So in our problem, A is located in the front, so we have a -2. H is on the inside, but it's also the opposite. So I don't know what that was. Let me try that again. That was at -2, and then this one was at negative. Okay, Moby's acting kind of crazy. Bear with me. So I'll put -1 like this. And then the K is at the end, so that's at -3. Just erase this. This is bothering me. Okay, so now we can go into the graphing calculator. Actually, before we even do that, we can put the starting point. The starting point is at HK, so at -1 and -3. So this shape starts here. Now we should already know the cube root shape before we even start. Cube roots go kind of like a square root, but then they have the other end like this. So we should expect to see that on our graphing calculator. Also, there's a negative, so that's actually going to reflect vertically. So I'm just going to go ahead and type this in. I have -2. Actually, you know what I want to do is I actually want to type in the cube root first. So I'll put the 3 on the inside up there. I'll put x plus 1. Go back to the front. And I'm going to put the -2 in there. And then I'm going to go to the end. And I'm going to put -3. So there's the same basic shape that we should see. Again, we want to stay kind of near the center, so I'm going to hit trace. We know that x is -1 where that starting point is, so I'm just going to go to 0 and see what that does. At 0, it's at -5. So there's a point here. At 1, it looks like there's a point at a decimal, but I'm just going to skip that. I want whole numbers. You can estimate it if you want, but I prefer to graph whole numbers, so I'll go to 2. Another decimal, I'll go to 3. Another decimal, I'll go to 4. Go to 5, go to 6, go to 7. There it is. At +7, it's at -7. So I think +7 is here, and -7 is probably somewhere around here. So then I'm going to go in the other direction, and again, I'm just going to kind of search for whole numbers. So -2, I already have that one, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9. There it is. At -9, it's at +1. So in general, the shape goes something kind of like this, curves this way, and then it curves back up this way and hits that point. Now, you guys probably draw better because I'm using a Moby, so it's a little weird. But that's about it. Okay, number 13. We have to list A, H, and K. We don't need a calculator for that. So A is always in the front, H is on the inside, and K is at the end. So A, it looks like it's blank, but it's actually a 1. H is on the inside, but it's always the opposite. So this is actually going to be a +4. And then K is at the end, so that's going to be at 6. Now we can actually graph the starting point of this shape using the H and the K. H is the X, so it's 4 to the right, and then we're going to go 6 up. So I believe that's probably about right here. Now the basic shape to this is going to look something like this. So then we can go into the calculator and type in. So in the calculator, to access the square root, we're going to hit Shift X squared. We're going to type in X -4. We're going to get out of the square root, and then we're going to put +6. So we draw it, and there's our shape. We don't want to plug in any numbers on the x-axis left of +4 because the graph does not exist, so you'll end up with an error. So we want to go, you can already see at 0 it says error. There's no graph there, so it can't give us an answer. So we want to go maybe to 5. At 5, it looks like it's at +7. 5, positive 7. And then we'll try 6, 7, 8. At 8, it's at 8. So 8, 8. Did I mess this up? I think I didn't count this right. Hang on a second. 4, 5. 7's actually here. And then the other one was at 8, 8. So I kind of had to adjust that point. I didn't count it right. So 8 is here. 8, I hope, is right here. And then we draw the shape. And that's it for that one. Okay, in this graph, this one is going to be a V shape because it's absolute value. We also know that it's going to face down because of the negative in the front. To list AH and K, AH and K are always in the same spots. A is in the front, H is on the inside, and K is at the end. So in this problem, A would be -2. H is the opposite of what's inside, so that would be -1. And then K is -3. The starting point for this shape is at -1, -3, -1, -3. And we can expect to see the graph head downward. So I'm going to head over to the calculator and I'm going to type in the equation. So it's -2. Now to access the absolute value, we would hit Option F5 and then F1. So then we type in x plus 1, get out of the absolute value, and then hit -3. So we should see a V shape headed downward, and there it is. So I'm going to trace. I know that this starting point is at -1, so I'm just going to go to 0. At 0, it's at -5, so it's here. Oops, I actually put that in the wrong place. Scoot that down just a little bit, one more. That's at -5. And at 1, it's at -7. So here. And you can kind of see a pattern. It looks like it's going down 2 and right 1, so we can just continue that pattern. Now on the opposite side, it basically does the same thing. So I'm going to go down 2 and left 1. Down 2 and left 1. Down 2 and left 1. So we should end up with this line of symmetry at -1. So our shape comes like this, and our shape comes, whoa. I want to undo that. I don't like that one. Let me fix that. There we go. And that's an absolute value graph.